All right, hopefully everyone can hear me. We'll check my, hello, 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 hello. All right, I am now getting the audio. The recording is gone. I got the AI assistant on. Let me share and we can get started. Think I'm sharing. Looks to be okay. Who knows? Looks to be the recording is going and I'm sharing with Zoom. Just don't know. So students, welcome. We're into week 10 lecture. This is Professor Gobe. Hope you enjoyed a good fall 2024 break. And topics for this week is indicators of behavior, human and physical security, online privacy and security. Let's jump right into the topics. So on previous lectures, we've talked about indicators of compromise, which as you can see here on the slide, they are your typical hash values, which could represent file names or domain names, IP addresses, domain names themselves. Hash values can also be the hash from a hash function. Um, when you hash a file or a folder, or a folder of files and you get the hash value back, that's what those hash values also could be. Um, they could be also tools and techniques, tactics, and procedures. Tools could be, as the bullets say, kitties or scripts used for to carry out ransomware attacks. Um, they could be banking Trojan, malware, credential stealers, or keyloggers. Indicators of behavior is a little bit different in that it encompasses um, monitoring normal day-to-day computer activity. And so monitoring a user's behavior is no longer limited to just the user um, and entity behavior analytics. It's helpful to know, and basically what the bullet is saying is helpful to know what is normal. So what time do they normally log into the company system? What applications do they start up? Email, PowerPoint, a web browser, some specific application like a editor, like a IDE. Maybe it's a HR system. So it could be many. And then what do they do with it, and what type of data is being accessed by those applications? So that's your normal activity. And so that's your UEBA, user and entity behavior analytics. You're determining what is normal by not only the user logged in, but the applications or third-party applications that are logging into your systems to perform certain specific tasks. So what the bullets are saying, we need to know what um, behavior profiles can span. What's the span of activities? Technical concerns, what do they need access to about the accounts and access? Um, so you can then baseline that. Detecting basic behavior or normal behavior requires less data and analysis than detecting anomalous behavior, things that go above and beyond that, because you need to know what is anomalous versus what is normal. So as a cybersecurity professional, If you're hired and you're hired to do user and entity behavior analysis, in your mind, what they're saying is, okay, by department, what are the accounts, the different permissions on their accounts, the roles, if any, so role-based access control, what permissions are associated with those roles, what applications they need to have access to, what data on the file system the applications need to have access to, and the accounts need to have access to. So you're analyzing all of that, and then what is normal. Once you determine what is normal, you baseline it so you then could look for what is anomalous to trigger alerts. That's your job as a security professional, is to investigate the anomalous activity to see if it's malicious or not. These slide really just talk about that process of doing exactly that. So monitoring user activity to detect risk behavior means you need to know what is normal first to determine what is risky. User behavior monitoring is a common practice governed by entities. We see this in the real world, whether it's going to school and there's rules of engagement in schools. Anything that goes all outside of that, you can get in trouble by breaking the rules and get suspended from school. So no, analyzing what is normal. Historically, user behavior monitoring wasn't a priority for most commercial companies because they only thought they needed to just worry about when they were under attack, when a crime was being committed. But now, because of the rise in insider threat and successfulness of um, of so many users working from home and accessing their network remotely, um, defining what is normal has become the standard, the norm. That most companies have to do this. So many clients saw early UEBA systems as helpful way to detect compromised accounts when accounts that have been the credentials have been stolen, they were doing enormous activity. Around 2014, the world started to see the first commercial grade UAB products, also as defined by Gartner, to help clients with some common challenges in dealing with account compromises. So you remember that. And how do they do that analysis? They ingested all of that behavior or activities into a scene, security incident and event manager to do the analysis. This just talks some more about, after many UAB vendors were acquired by SIEM companies, monitoring behaviors had become a part of a standard feature of SIEM tools. So if you're doing your term paper on a SIEM product, this is good information for you. Some of the most notable areas identify that UEBA brought about was improvements in identity and access management, improvements in privilege access management, especially the misuse of privilege accounts due to them getting compromised, data access governance, because you begin to see in the normal day of responsibilities, certain job functions or roles then need to have such widespread access to company data or sensitive information. So this is the process. This is really an infographic that's kind of describe that kind of process of monitoring what is normal, creating profiles to say, here's normal for HR, here's normal for marketing, here's normal for engineering, here's normal for operations. You extract what those normal attributes are, what data they need to access, what applications need to access. Then you determine what is anomalous, thresholds outside of that to then start monitoring for malicious behavior. This is just more on that. And then we get into, well, what are some of those attributes that you're monitoring on human behavior? They include abnormal account access, especially invalid password attempts or multi-factor attempts, excessive absenteeism, resource usage or heavy resource usage, whether it's bandwidth or copying or transferring large files, suspicious handling of intellectual or sensitive data, um, personal issues external from the workplace, requests for unneeded privileges. All those are kind of indicators that alerts can be sent on. Then you start to monitor the access pattern of users, resource usage, data interaction, web destination categories, social risk indicators, et cetera, where they're accessing the system from. And not only they're monitoring with the applications, but most companies are now starting to regularly monitor text messaging. So if you're using the internal messaging of a company, that's being monitored and mined for potential anomalous or misuse activity. You monitor the data sources that not only accounts access, but users access. So if account has been compromised, this is where you can detect um, recon type activity or data exfiltration activity. So public records, internal communications, emails again, um, log files, etc. And then we get to the discussion part on UEBA, user detection and indicators of behavior. Which indicators of behavior types were more effective in detecting malware? And so a lot of this was centered around a threshold. So access, file size, memory usage, time you logged in, excessive um, um, incorrect password attempts. Um, um, Accessing folders that you normally don't go to. So these would be indicators of behavior that may be potentially anomalous. Which indicator types are more effective? All of them effective, but in your organization, you may prioritize some more than others based on the type of work you do, whether everyone's remote and it's a flat organization because it's small, so everyone gets access to everything, or a large organization where it's much more segmented. Those are the type of things you want to look for. And then who is responsible for, doing the UEBA process of determining what's norm and then what's anomalous? That's a technical task, so it probably would fall to the SOC um, manager and IT manager to work together with engineers to come up with um, triggers in anomalous behavior. Next topic is online privacy and security. So social media sites like Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat are often used by cyber criminals and well-funded organizations to carry out social engineering, reconnaissance, impersonation schemes, and frauds and scams. Really important, they try to infiltrate your social circles, learn as much about you to then carry out social engineering attacks, whether they're scraping or mining your profiles on your various social media accounts to gather enough personal information so they can either carry out a pre-texting attack or a business email compromise or vendor email compromise social engineering attack. That's what cyber criminals are doing. So limiting and who has access or who can see that is becoming more and more important um, as especially in the age of AI. So this is some tips. Some of these you've kind of learned from your lab too, but you know, making sure you have a strong password to your online accounts that's maybe a passphrase with a mixture of letters and numbers and symbols. Maybe consider limiting your account profile picture. Make sure it's not a close-up image of your face or likeness so it can be reused. Um, Enabling multi-factor authentication is the standard now and a must to do. And then here are steps to enable multi-factor authentication on Instagram and Facebook. This is how you get access to privacy settings on Instagram and Facebook. Make sure you review that. Know when you post something who's all going to be visible to. And when you like something, who that will be visible to, just knowing that. And I would say, if you haven't, go back and take a look. You want to make sure you keep things close to just your friends for now, especially as future cybersecurity professionals. You want to start understanding these privacy settings and how to lock things down. And one more key point here is, in particular, providing information like where you're at, location information, and then posting that to the public. That's never a good thing. Your personal status, address, all of those things in aggregate can lead to impersonation and a social engineering attack to one of your friends and family. So again, more on the privacy settings for Facebook, and click on this link. It'll take you to the privacy setting configuration page so you could then update your settings. Facebook is doing a much better job of making it easier for um, its users to check their privacy settings. It has I think, an app that can check it, make recommendations, and make it easier to set um, your settings. Okay, that's online privacy, pretty quick. Last topic is human and physical security and hybrid threats. This is a growing thing. These hybrid threats. I definitely want to encourage you to check out this video about the Wagner Group. So one of the more difficult aspects of information security is providing security for and against some of the people within and surrounding information, such as your employees, contractors, partners, customer service providers, etc. Almost without fail, we can expect these people to have or do something unexpected or not planned, potentially jeopardizing or compromising and your organization or assets, and therefore, having appropriate monitoring and policies and procedures in place, so at a minimum, people know what to do when a threat or an incident happens, is really, really important and becoming like the standard again. So, what is hybrid threats, and how does it relate to physical threats? So, hybrid threats are conducted by state or non-state actors to undermine and harm a target by influencing its decision-making at different levels. Means can be military, political, economic, civilian, informational, or judicial. Moreover, it is an ongoing activities, especially in the digital age, where we do so much online and so much is automated. So human behaviors definitely are our weakest link in our security plans. You can't control everything somebody does. Employees are often a source of data breaches. Um, Human beings more often than not click on those links, even though we do have good security awareness training and training is improving. Send sensitive information via unprotected methods, whether it's on the social media account, LinkedIn account, through email that's unprotected, divulge passwords or still write them down, write secure information down. All those things are still happening and will happen. Humans more often than not reveal sensitive information. Worse yet, we are encouraged by skilled adversaries. These tendencies being channeled, in particular in your online accounts, through who you may think is a friend of a friend, who's using social engineering to compliment you and get pretty low-level sensitive information. Countermeasures to human behaviors, a good security awareness program, whether it's pamphlets, posters, videos, bring your own device, security training programs for sensitive data handling, door access, remember no tailgating, employee badges, so you know who's an employee and what clearance level they may have and what access level they may have, monitoring for suspicious emails and following data protection regulations through HIPAA, PCI for your banking transactions or payment transactions. Protection data, again, regardless of the industry we operate in, we will almost always have a need for protecting data, in particular sensitive data, whether it's PCI, health, or financial. And that's starting to grow in the age of AI, where just protecting PPI of your customers is becoming important because AI can aggregate data so much quicker than humans to carry out a social engineering attack. I've talked about pretexting a little bit. The definition here is pretexting happens when a threat actor assumes the identity of someone in authority to then ask you to do something like pay a bill, go to this link, send them or give them some maybe sensitive information. And so that's pretexting. And they can learn that again through either your LinkedIn profile, information that's already out there in the public space. Maybe you and your boss are speaking or going to a conference and you're on the agenda. All these are ways that information can be collected in pretext. Phishing is a particular type of social engineering. Tackling is largely employed through the use of electronic communications such as email, texting, or phone calls. Don't forget that part of it. It's not just email. It could be texting, text messaging, or phone calls. Know those definitions of pretexting, phishing, spear phishing, a target attack against a company, specific company, organization, or a person in the organization. So sometime that could be all the C-suite or senior executives in a company that a threat group or a threat actor would target. Tailgating, this is more into physical security. Make sure you look at this video on physical security. Really goes into tailgating and how it's important not to allow piggybacking to happen in sensitive or secure or access control areas in your company or anywhere. And then for physical security, really the key takeaway here, I think it's two. The first key thing is your most important asset in any organization is the people, assuring their safety. Then it's the equipment and then the data. So making sure you assure your staff's safety, no matter what the threat is, natural disaster, a man-made, or a cyber attack, making sure that people are safe and protected is your number one priority. Then having something like a business continuity plan and disaster recovery plan is also important. So business continuity plan refers to specifically to those plans we put in place to ensure that critical business functions, which are people, equipment, and data, can be continued in a operational manner through the use of through the state of emergency, whatever that state of emergency is. So your BCP guarantees some form of continued operations. DRP covers the plans we put in place in preparation for a potential disaster and what exactly we will do during the disaster, after, and particular disaster attacks to replace infrastructure. So your DRP is a part of your BCP, not the other way around. This gets more into what are deterrent, detective, and preventive controls you can put in place as a part of your BCP. And you can read through this. I won't read them. Again, also going over what is the difference between safety and evacuation policies. Remember, this gets to your number one priority, which is protecting your people. So making sure they're safe and they know the evacuation procedures, which is something that you must train people on and you must actually do um, exercises on, walkthroughs to make sure everybody knows who is the point of contacts in their given area, where are the exit, and where you're going to rendezvous, who's going to count to make sure everyone got out or they are accounted for. There's some also administrative controls, which can be considered computer controls. It used to be that you wanted to have backup hard drives in a disk array so that you would have backups for the backups. Nowadays, you consider having a hybrid environment, so it could be some hardware on premise and then other hardware in the cloud, so having virtual assets to be a part of your administrative controls. And then a hybrid is just that, having some administrative on premise and then the other one in a virtual environment. So who are hybrid threat actors? So according to the NSA, they could be, but not limited to Russia, your usual suspect, China, Iran. Um, so hybrid threat actors are typically funded and sponsored by authoritarian states and regimes called non-state actors, NSAs. But they also can be non-state. Hybrid threat actors can include groups, movements, and entities which are used or co-opted to fulfill a certain strategic opportunity, one such as the Wagner Group out of Russia. This is a private military company which operates in several um, states around the world. And check out this video on the Wagner Group and their hybrid threat campaigns. So the discussion here is how are hybrid threats different from advanced persistent threats? And a big part of that is, as you think about that, is the multi-tiered approach to hybrid threats. They're going after economic distress, political distress, cyber distress, data exfiltration, pressure, military pressure. Um, so you name it, that's a part of the hybrid threat. And let's see, I think, how do we defend, you know, against hybrid threats, hostile environments? The first step is raise awareness. Um, making sure that, democratic nations fully need to foster resilience against these threats through sharing of threat intelligence about these threat actors and their TTPs, and then deploy a defense in depth protection strategy, making sure that you protect your critical infrastructure. As well as improve the needs of public literacy, because a big part of hybrid threats is disinformation and misinformation. And that's it. So indicators of behavior, human and physical security or hybrid threats, and online privacy and security. All right, thank y'all, and I'll see you for the next lecture.